The Russia-Ukraine war is making headlines globally, but one name is going to be remembered longer than others: Volodymyr Zelensky. The Ukrainian president has become a household name in the past few weeks. Less than 4 years ago, Zelensky was just another Ukrainian. He was leading a very different life. He was, of course, a popular comedian on a satirical TV show, but today he is the face of Ukrainian resistance. He starred in a sitcom called Servant of the People, where a history teacher gets elected as a president. Life imitated art when he became president in 2019. Without any political experience, he won by a landslide, and now he is a wartime statesman. To many, war in the 21st century seems surreal, but clearly not for Vladimir Putin. The 21st century brings a twofold war, one that is fought on the ground and the other on social media. The 44-year-old Ukrainian president very well understands this. In the last 1 week, he ditched his suit for a khaki sweatshirt, standing alone as his forces battled the Russian troops. He has a very hands-on approach. He communicates constantly. He tweets about every phone call with world leaders. And unlike Putin, he is not sitting behind his grand desk in some old office. Sentiments aside, what's the story here? In one word, propaganda. Russia is doing the same with its state media outlets like RT and Sputnik, but you cannot build narratives with state media. Moscow is currently working to ban all anti-Russia sentiment. So while Putin is course-correcting, Zelensky is building his own narrative. He is vlogging from Kiev and sipping tea with his soldiers.
Прем'єр-міністр Шмигаль тут, Подоляк тут, президент.
And everything is on social media. The 44-year-old was an accidental president, but nothing about his war strategy is an accident. As we told you earlier, this is a war being fought on two fronts, the ground and then on social media. And it looks like Zelensky is winning at least the latter.
Це не втягування країни НАТО в війну. Я думаю, ту відповідь, яку ви всі бачите, як ми сьогодні працюємо, як ми відповідаємо НАТО в війну, якщо чесно.
For more on this, we are now being joined by Professor of International Politics, Scott Lucas from London. Professor Lucas, thanks so much for joining us on WION.
Thank you.
The Red Cross says that the situation currently in Mariupol is extremely dire. What do you make of the situation unfolding in Ukraine as of now?
Well, in Mariupol specifically, we wait and watch. There is a second evacuation window currently open after the Russians lied yesterday about a ceasefire and shelled evacuees during the first window. The hope is to get half of the population of Mariupol, 200,000 or 400,000 people out. Beyond that, the Russians, specifically Vladimir Putin, have a real problem. They have a problem in that apart from the southern corridor, including Mariupol, they have not really been successful in taking towns and cities. They were not able to take Kiev and arrest, even kill Ukraine's leaders. They have not taken Kharkiv, the second largest city, and this is amongst stories of serious problems with the Russian ground forces. Lack of supplies, logistical problems, many conscripts as opposed to trained troops. Now, what does that mean? It means that as this extends and Russia does not occupy Ukraine, you have the increasing economic pressure on Vladimir Putin, which is worrying him, as we saw yesterday. And as you introduced excellently, you have the information battle, which the Ukrainians have won hand down. Putin can no longer pretend, as he has for months, that he is a victim of NATO and the West. He's the aggressor, and the world sees that, even those countries that have not yet denounced the Russian war.
Professor, MasterCard and Visa, and this is the recent update coming in, MasterCard and Visa have announced that they are now suspending operations in Russia, as have several other big brands and retail companies in particular. In all of this, the Russian President Putin says that Western sanctions on Russia are akin to a declaration of war. So will this lead to a further escalation?
That's up to Vladimir Putin. But what you heard in that statement from Vladimir Putin is he's concerned, even uncertain, because he did not expect the sanctions to be so extensive, to be so many countries to be involved in them, and to have such an effect on the Russian economy so quickly. The Russian stock market has been closed for a week.
Right.
The Russian ruble has dropped more than 40% to its lowest level, and the Russian economy is projected, unless Putin gets out of this, the Russian economy will drop 35%, more than a third, in the next 3 months.
Now, Ukraine's foreign minister has said that his country desperately needs fighter jets and air defense systems, and that NATO's refusal to implement a no-fly zone over Ukraine is a sign of weakness. Will Ukraine's pleas for military intervention get any response from the West and NATO?
There will not be a no-fly zone because of the risk of direct military confrontation, whether it's U.S. forces, European forces, Turkish forces with Russia. You know, that would be the biggest war in Europe since 1945 if that happened. What you should watch out for, I think, is that warplanes will be provided to Ukraine if this continues. Anthony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, broached the possibility yesterday after he visited Poland. He said if Poland gives warplanes to Ukraine, the U.S. might replace those warplanes, giving them to Poland. That, I think, is the step that everyone is pushing for. Even Zelensky knows you won't get a no-fly zone. What he wants is the ability of Ukraine to defend its airspace against the Russians.
Right. Professor Lucas, thank you so much for joining us on WION at this hour, and thanks so much for all your inputs. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.